Hi, this is a video I wanted to take when I was on my Valentine Goose trip, but I was unable to. You see, what happened was my transmission broke. There's a sensor inside the transmission that detects how fast it's going and what gear you're in. And when the sensor failed, it caused my truck to stay in first gear and be limited to 3,000 RPM. So literally, I was driving around Denver in first gear trying to find parts for my truck. And when I did find parts, the connector was wrong. So I had to make a connector out of parts I bought in the auto parts store. And I was afraid to going through the mountains because it's really bumpy. There's washouts, it's what you can imagine going through the mountains. And I was afraid that would jiggle this connector off, and then I'd be up in the mountains and I'd have to work on my car. Maybe not be able to fix it, not have an auto parts store nearby. So I kind of let my brain rule my heart on that one, and decided not to go up into the mountains. But one of the reasons I wanted to go into the mountains is because there's this one spot, and I've camped all over the Rockies, up by Telluride and Gunnison, and all over. I've even gone out into the desert on the east side of Colorado, and spending the night alone in the mountains in the forest is an ordeal. It really is. It's like there are things that worry me, and I know people they just pitch a tent and they climb in, they go to sleep, and I can't do that because I'm just cognizant of what's out there. I know there's, and as unlikely as it sounds, I know there's bears and there's elk and there's goats and there's stuff that can gore you or be surprised by you or whatever. And I'm also worried about there are places I camp where I always hear shotguns. I'm always hearing guns just constantly throughout the day, and so I'm always worried about people with guns, and or people just out to be mean to people. I've watched too many of those kind of horror movies, but there's a way I get through it, and I usually stay awake all night long, and I try to distract myself. I watch the stars. I try to listen to music. I try to read. Just do things to take my mind off it because I cannot sleep at night in the mountains. But there is a point, and it's anywhere you go, there's a point where the sky just starts to get light and you hear birds singing. And as soon as you hear the birds singing, dawn is just around the corner. So that's the point where I'll pass out and I'll sleep for 4 to 5 hours. Just because I don't know, it's daylight, you can sleep during the daytime. But it's just some weird kink that I have when I go into the mountains. But there's this one spot, and it's a beautiful spot, and you wouldn't think it's a spot that's scary because there's two campgrounds that are within a mile or so of it. There's a dude ranch. There's because there's a mountain, and on the other side of the mountain there's a dude ranch. So it's there's people around, and when there's people around, you don't feel as bad. You don't feel as isolated, and also it's close to the Front Range. So at night when the sun goes down, you can actually see the lights from the plains. You can see the lights from Denver, and I'm closer down south, but you can see the plain with the lights on it, and so you feel like you're close to civilization. You can also see the light on Pikes Peak, which is really cool because it looks just like the fires from Lord of the Rings. You see Pikes Peak and there's this red light on top of it. That's exactly what it looks like, as a fire on the peak. But you wouldn't think this is an area where you'd get scared, but I've never been able to spend the night there. Usually about midnight, 1 o'clock, something just overcomes me. I hop in the car and I'll take off. And as I'm driving, this is a place where you have to drive these almost fire trails to get to, and it's rough driving. And I think you would think driving is scarier because that's when your headlights might pick on something. But it's, the further I get, and I'm passing people camping, and then I start to feel better. I'm like, why couldn't I spend the night there? But I've never been able to. And so one of my goals on the Valentine Goose trip was to spend the night there. But like I said, my transmission broke. That's not an excuse. I wouldn't have gone up in the mountains with the transmission the way it was. I did go to a campground in Nebraska, which is on my way back. But there was, oh my God, the mosquitoes were so thick. Like I opened my mouth to drink milk, and mosquitoes got in the milk bottle before I could drink the milk. And then they were getting up my nose. I was like, oh my God, this is horrible. I couldn't stand it. So, I did spend the night there, but I was in the car the whole night. I wasn't even going to open the windows. I did wake up, I slept fine there. I don't know why, but, because I cannot sleep on the ground at night in the forest. But I did fall asleep here. I don't know, it was just different. And when I woke up about 1, 2 o'clock, the car was just, it was muggy. And I thought I took a chance. I opened the windows. Right about dawn, I could start hearing the buzzing again, so I rolled all the windows back up and slept a little bit longer. But I don't normally do that, and that was really weird that I was able to do that. I wanted to do stargazing, but like the night was clouded over the entire night. Even when I woke up at 3, you couldn't see a single star. So that was that trip. I didn't get to do this, but part of the build up to this was I wanted to challenge myself, so I purposely scheduled this trip on a new moon, so there would be no moon. It would be pitch black darkness, and when I slept in the car, it was. I couldn't see the tree line to the sky, which you usually can, at some point. But yeah, pitch black darkness, and the thing is, I was challenging myself. Now I'm a big horror movie fan, but horror movies do not affect me, and I don't know if I'm different in that regards. I've had full-grown men watch a horror movie and tell me, because I've said this before, that horror movies don't affect me. Never, this horror movie will affect you. I watched it and I had to sleep with the lights on for 3 nights in a row. And I'll be okay, and I watch it and I'll be like, okay, that was a good horror movie. It had some good spot. And then I go to bed. It doesn't affect me because I know it's make-believe. It's not real. And there's a part of my mind. And I think that's what makes me a logical thinker, and that's what helps me with computer work. Because I'm thinking logically, that's make-believe. That's a story that's on TV. It's not real. And there's a part of my mind that can just shut that off, and I go to bed. And I've always been that way. One horror movie I just watched, I'm going to recommend it. It's called The Nun. It's part of an anthology with the Annabelle doll and stuff. But this is a prequel. It doesn't really have anything to do with the other movies, but it's made by the same people. But I just loved it. The settings and the storyline, and because this was supposed to set in motion like all the ghosts and horrors for the other horror movies, because it was a prequel. And just the way they set it up, and it was just a beautiful movie, and I loved it. And it had a lot of, spots in it that would freak you out, and I'm like, that's the kind of movie I would love to write. That's the kind of book I'd love to write. And but I could shut it off. I'm done with it. It's a prequel, so it took place like at turn of the century. It was, I can't remember if it was Romania or somewhere, in an old castle. So it doesn't affect, because I'm like, okay, that was in a castle. Here I am in my Frank Lloyd Wright house. It doesn't, there's no connection there, so it doesn't make me lose sleep at night. So, kind of by accident, I started watching YouTube videos. I started Googling, like, what are the spookiest YouTube videos? And I've been doing this for like 6 months now, and it's hard for me to find a video I haven't seen now. So every night when I go to work, I'll start pulling up new ones that don't show that I've seen it before, and I'm like, okay, are any of these new? And it's always a treat for me. But again, now see, these are different because these are supposed to be real. These aren't make-believe. These are people who believe they filmed a ghost, who believe, and it's not just ghosts, it's cryptids and UFOs and aliens. But these people believe they filmed this or taken pictures of it. And I've been watching these, and I'm going to give you some shout outs. I watch a lot of Sir Spooks. I watch a lot of Top 5S. I think they're related, but there's like Top 10S and Top 15S. But there's different narrators, so I'm not sure how they're related. There was one, Sir Spooks. Oh, Nuke's top 5. I don't know if that's the guy that talks funny. Um, and you got to take the commentators with a grain of salt, because a lot of them are like, well, this guy sounds really sincere, and I don't see how this can be fake, so it must be real. And I'm like, and then they always say, well, what do you think? Put it in the comment, because you know when they put it in the comments, they get, I don't know, they get more money or something. But they're always begging you to put something in the comments, and of course they always want you to subscribe. But anyway, these are the ones I watch the most. They're spooks. There's some other ones that are historical, and I can't remember, but I'll just Google the scariest videos. And to me, they fall into different categories, but they always, the thing that gets me is that they always leave an out. And I'm going to go through some of these, and hopefully this won't be too long, but this is something that really fascinates me. The more I watch them, the more I'm like, okay, this falls into this category, this falls into this category. But there's the ones that are really old, and these are the ones that are on film or VHS tape. They haven't been photoshopped or manipulated, but they're usually, in fact, all of these are always so blurry that that's an out in itself, you know, because you can, I mean, even if they are old, you can Photoshop them and stuff, but some of these have been around forever, and I'm just kind of watching them now. But one of the points, one of the UFO guys made, he says, you know, everyone is carrying around a high definition camera in their pocket these days. I'm filming this on a high definition camera, and I carry it around in my pocket. So how come there's not high definition videos of ghosts or UFOs or cryptids? And he made the point of, there was a UFO over, I think it was Palestine, somewhere in Israel, and a perfectly clear UFO was filmed doing maneuvers and going up. But the thing that made it unique was that there were other people in the city filming the same UFO from different vantage points. So as they studied these UFOs, everyone was like, this is real, this looks real, and it's from different vantage points. So it, you know, what are the odds that, you know, people could film the same thing? But it turns out this was done by a film student who was working with Photoshop or some program like that. And the other people that filmed it in the city were his classmates, and they were all working on this project together, and they fooled everybody. So the point was made that the clearer the picture, the more likelihood that it was faked. And it kind of made sense, you know, because, you know, perfectly clear picture of a perfectly clear UFO showing complete detail is going to look fake, and it's going to be indistinguishable from a fake. So there's kind of a catch-22 or a, you know, vicious circle or something there that is like, the clearer the picture, the less likelihood that it's real. You know, it was either photoshopped or had practical special effects done to it. So, and I mean, it's true, every video I watch, and even like the professional ghost hunter videos, they're always done with like low light cameras where it's kind of that greenish grayish look, and or they're done with infrared cameras, so that's that black and white look where everyone's eyes are glowing. And that leaves you an out. Is the blurrier and worse it is, the easier it would be to manipulate it, or do a practical effect, or have your friend, you know, do something or pull a string. And so they're unbelievable. And I've yet to see one where I was like, okay, that was really weird, but there's so many questions on this that it's not going to affect me. I don't think it's real. So some of the ones, like I said, they fall in different categories. One is the VHS, the old videos, and these are the ones that are harder to explain because they have stuff on them, but these are the ones that, because of the technology, are more likely to be a technical issue, like real strong pixelation. I can't even say the word, but you know, something that looks like a person walking through the woods is just, you know, pixelation on the cameras. And one of them, like, and this was explained, I think oh, what's the guy's name that has a silver on his face? Captain Disillusion, I think. Explained, and I know this because I used to work in security, but when you use a VHS tape on the old CCT cameras, you're recording the same scene over and over and over again on the VHS tape. So it's like screen burn. This gets burned into the tape. So if you try to use the tape for something else, you'll actually see images from the previous tape because this tape has just been used over and over and over again. So like you film the same sidewalk night after night after night, and this tape is getting reused night after night after night. The sidewalk is burned into the tape. So during the day, if someone's walking down the sidewalk and then that gets recorded over at night, you might see the shadow of that person walking down the sidewalk and it'll look like a ghost. And there's a lot of these out there, and a lot of times you watch these and they're actually someone with a phone or something filming the TV showing the CCT camera, so it's even worse. But you see the ghost and you're like, I can tell you by the looks of it, I'm like, this is a magnetic ghost on the tape that's been burned in. And of course they don't know that, so they're thinking they've seen a ghost on the camera. And there's even ones where like they've seen the ghost and they send the guy out to investigate, and you can see the guy walk into the frame, but you know that ghost is still burned into the image, and he doesn't see anything because it's not really there. It's an artifact of the technology. And a lot of these are like this. And then there's the ones that are just so blurry. And I mean, these are the ones that say, oh, did you see the face in the window? And I'm like, I'm looking right at the window, I don't see the face. And they're like, let's zoom in and enhance it. And they zoom in and enhance it. Now do you see the face in the window? I'm like, well, I see a curvy thing that, you know, could be a head maybe, but it's so blurry and curvy, and, you know, there's just no way. And so some of these are just imagination, I think. And then there's ones where, you know, just the reaction of them, you know, because if you're walking in a cemetery and a ghost jumps out from behind a tombstone and the guy's like, oh, did you see that over there? That's not a reaction you would have in real life. Now, I like to think I'm brave and I'm disconnected and I'm logical. But I'm telling you, if I was walking, I mean, the logical part of me would say if something jumped out, I'm going to look at it. But, you know, there's the fight or flight response that's going to kick in if something jumps out at you. So, yeah, I'm probably going to react in some way. But part of me is going to be like, okay, I'm going to note the stone. I'm going to note how tall this figure was. I mean, you know, even if I'm running away, I'm like, okay, this is the sound it's making. But, you know, a reaction I wouldn't have is, oh, look, did you see that over there? You know, that's not a real reaction. And there's some that are stronger than that, but they're not strong enough to make me believe that they weren't in on some kind of practical joke. So those are another kind of videos. And one kind are the ghost hunters, and there's lots of ghost hunters out there, but why they don't use lights and cameras and things that can film clear pictures. So if you got a professional ghost hunter, but yet they're still using the infrared and total darkness, and, you know, why? I mean, that to me, that's just a cover up. And there's been enough ghost hunters that were caught faking evidence that if it's a professional ghost hunter, I'm not going to believe it, because they're going to like, this is the most realistic capturing of a ghost, and this is, but it's not. If it was, it would make history. You know, that's the point. But no, they're like, okay, this is, on this episode we captured this ghost, and on this episode we captured this ghost, and this episode we captured this ghost. That's not realistic to me. And to me, that's there must be fakery there. And I'm not. If you're a professional ghost hunter, I will never believe any video you capture, because you got an agenda basically, and so that's the out there. Now the ones that, and then there's misidentifications. I'm sure when people are in abandoned buildings, there might be homeless people living in there. There might be other people exploring the same building at the same time. But there are videos of it, abandoned buildings where they'll be like, "Did you see it?" And you're like, I'm watching the video, going, What am I supposed to see?" And there it is, like a face appears behind a door and goes back, and it's somebody in the building who it either isn't supposed to be there or didn't know anyone else is supposed to be there. So they're looking. Of course, it's natural. If I was in an abandoned building and I hear other people, I'm going to like hide and then kind of peek out to see what I see. And if they happen to be filming, they're going to catch my head coming out, going back in. And I see a lot of those, and those are they're the creepier ones, basically. But I mean, it's just you can tell that no, that wasn't a ghost. That was something there, and there's a gray area, and I don't believe in ghosts, and I don't believe there was anything there, but I can see where people would believe that was a ghost or an alien, because some of them look really weird. But if you're a guy and you're wearing a hat or something, or a hoodie, and you're just poking out and going back in, and it's being filmed with infrared cameras and low light cameras, it's gonna look weird, and that's where a big portion of these fall into. And then some of them, they're just, I don't know, they're fakery. And like there's this one school that shows lockers tipping, or this one office building. And now I've worked with computers, for 20 years now. And this one office building had these flat screen monitors that all lit up at the same time. Now I know they don't do that. Even if you turn them on, they're going to take a minute to come on. And to have them all blinking at the same time, it looks so fake. And the guy's like, "This is so realistic." I'm like, "No, it's not. It's fake." Or like seeing a chair slide across the room, or a lot of them are like, "Here's my kitchen." And all of a sudden, the cabinet door flies open and a dish flies out, and a drawer opens and a spoon flies out. I'm like, this can be done. I mean, I can do. I mean, if you give me an hour, I could probably rig up something in my kitchen to have a door slam and a plate fly out. So those kind of things don't affect me. There are. Then we get into the area that's kind of the gray area, and there's some really good, bizarre videos out there, and you watch them, and you can't quite place how they faked it or how it was done or what it was. But it's like, holy crap, what the hell was that? Now, I call these the magician videos, because when you go see a magician, I'm always watching, like when he's doing his fancy thing with this hand, I'm always watching what he's doing with this hand, because I want to learn what the trick is, or I want to see what the trick is. But I never see it, so when the trick is done, it's always a surprise. It's like, oh God, I watched that part. How did he do that? And I just caught, I guess it's an old show, but I just caught some snippets from Fool Me with Penn and Teller. And, they're professional magicians, and so magicians come out and try to fool them. And if they can't spot what the trick is, they win. So I was watching this, and I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm watching it. Yeah, he's flipping this, he's shuffling this, and all of a sudden it's different. And it's like, how did he do that? Was it camera trick? And you see Penn and Teller going, oh my God, I don't know how he did that. And I call those magician tricks. Now we know it wasn't magic. We know there's a trick involved. We just don't know what the trick is. So that's why I call these videos the magician videos, because there's a trick involved, but we just don't know what the trick is or what happened. And these are the there's some really good ones. One is and some you can kind of figure out. Like there's this one of a witch. This guy was driving in the desert, and it's a foreign video, so you can't understand what they're saying. But there's the creepiest old woman that shows up in his headlights, and he stops, and you can hear this thing screaming, and it like hobbles towards him, and he's backing up, and you can hear the guy screaming in the cab, and this thing is hobbling for it, and he's screaming. And I mean, it's one of the more popular. I see it on a lot of lists. I don't know. Whoops. I don't know what you would look up to see it, but it's look up Desert Witch or you know. But that is just a really creepy video, and it looks absolutely real. But I'm assuming that it's either someone pulling a prank or because it's got to be someone in a costume. And the guy freaking out, he might not be in on it. He might really be freaking out. But it is a creepy video that I call the magician's one. I don't know how it's done. I don't know why it was done. But there it is. The other one is a cave explorer. This one totally freaks me out. And I watched it over and over again. And I cannot figure it out. But this guy is a cave explorer. And he's got all these videos of him exploring caves. But he went into this one cave where there are chains hanging. And one chain is just swinging like crazy. And he's like, I've never seen that before. And he goes, this is totally freaking me out. And he refused to go into the cave. So then, like later, he said, okay, I went back to the cave. Everyone was asking me about this cave, so I'm going to go back. And he went back to it. And like, I've actually seen, you don't see it in these videos. You have to actually like look it up. But he actually like draws a diagram what the cave was. So this cave was a bottom cave. And there was another cave above it where the mine was, and the mine would drop the debris down to this cave, and that's where they would cart out the debris. So the bottom cave was, wasn't where the mine was, but it was where they were carting out the stuff from the mine. So there was chains hanging, and he said way in the back there was a chute, and the chute is where the debris would come down. So he walked back to the chute. So it was just a big long hole in the ground. It wasn't like a cave or a winding, twisting mine. It was just this long, straight hole. He walks back to the back, and all of a sudden you hear music playing, like from an old AM radio, just and he was like, no, and he turned around and hightailed it out of there. He goes, I have no idea what that was. I don't want to know what that was. But those two videos combined, being in the same cave, I mean, that's a magician's video. I don't know what happened. He doesn't know what happened. Just totally freaky. And I don't know. Again, I don't believe in the paranormal, so I don't think anything paranormal was going on, but something freaky was going on. And there's lots of videos like that. There are these freak me out, and I'm going to admit it right now, but there are the skinwalkers. And the skinwalkers are just, I think there's 2 or 3 videos of skinwalkers, and they're just like a pair of legs. And they attach at the top, and they walk. Now you can kind of see, I've watched this one over and over again because everyone said it was fake, and you can kind of see, okay, if there was a wire here and someone was moving the feet remotely, I can kind of see how that was done. But again, it's one of those magician videos. There's no information on it. Supposedly somebody had break-ins or something, so they set up a camera on their driveway, and these things are walking down it, and they're just freaky as all get up, and whoever did this did a good job. So whether it was a prank on the landowners, whether the video maker was trying to pass this off as a real video, I don't know, but it's really well done. And but again, I cannot believe it, and those are like 3 of the ones that really, and there is one more, and it, because of my phobia of sleeping on the ground floor. I have a phobia of sleeping on the ground floor. I have the worst trouble doing it. I live in a house now that's like 6 steps up, and it's high up, so I don't feel that same vibe. But like my dad's house was a ranch house. I could never sleep there, and I think this stems from like going back to when I used to stay with my sister who lived in a trailer way out in the middle of the country. And even the trailer is up off the ground. But I don't know, I cannot sleep on the ground floor, and I have ways of dealing it if I have to sleep on the ground floor. But like when I'm getting apartments and stuff, when I was apartment searching in Denver, I was like, is this on the ground floor? If they said yes, I'm like, okay, I would just totally refuse it. But this video, I could only watch it like the one night, and then I could never watch it again. But they're like, can you see the face? He's like, he's got the camera pointing to the window, and he wasn't there, so there's no reaction. So this is one of those videos where they were watching it the next day, and I was totally surprised, and I could just barely see like a dot or something moving. And they said, let's enhance this. and it was literally like a big gorilla face in the window when they enhanced it, and it totally freaked me out because that's the kind of thing that's gonna scare me. But again, I don't know if it was a guy in a mask because it was just his face that came up to the window and then backed away, and I was like, holy shit, that's what I'm afraid of. That's what I don't want to see. And that one video like encapsulated everything that worries me. And I mean, it was one of the few videos that I don't want to see again. But again, I don't think it was real. It just played on my phobia, so I don't want to see it. And so that's what I'm kind of against. And then, there's so many out there. There's the old pictures, and the older the picture, the more likely that there was some kind of double exposure or something, because photography was new back then. And some people didn't realize what double exposures were, and the people that did used that to their advantage. And I know I watched a video on a guy that around the 1920s claimed he could, bring your loved one back, and he would take a picture of it. And it's very obviously double exposure. In fact, they said that one time Harry Houdini marked the plate, and then when he had the film developed, the mark wasn't on the plate, so he knew that at some point the photographer switched the film. So these kind of things, I mean, there's no video that will be good enough for me to believe. I just don't think that's true. I think that's true. I mean, I'm looking up. I got my TV, which is right behind me, and I'm looking. I just have it on a YouTube screen. I'm like, okay, I've seen that one. I've seen that one. And they're so blurry, and like, sure, some of these people probably got scared. They probably were pranked, but there's never information to go with them. Oh man, the Saudi Arabia videos, for some reason, they're all the same. They're like, there are these houses that are just mazes, and I don't know how they build houses over there, but they go into these houses that are just, you can tell they've been abandoned. And the guy is always screaming a prayer, and I've seen several of these. They're all kind of the same, and they're all different. So it must be like a cultural thing. But they go through this maze of a house. There's always these loud bangs and things flying through the air, and the guy's screaming prayers. And I'm like, okay, so why does that happen in that part of the world but nowhere else? And then, why in the middle of a city would someone have a Bigfoot video? Why in the middle of a city would someone, film a ghost, but no one's else ever seen it before or since? It's just, it never makes sense. The sightings never make sense. Filming on your lowest possible, I don't know how you say it, but like in low light conditions, blurriness. Again, there's some out there that are just, you watch them and you're like, okay, I'm looking, I'm like, oh man, I'm slowing them down, I'm playing them frame by frame. I'm like, how did they do that? What was that thing? There's one that you'll see a lot of. It's a sewer. I think it's in London or on the East Coast, but there's a thing called the rake, and you'll see a lot of videos with a so-called rake, and it was just like a naked, pale, hairless, very skinny, bony thing. And there's videos in the sewer where this thing like pokes its head out and moves back in, and supposedly this was a robotic camera being used by the sewer workers. And then it like came out even further, and you can see its bony shoulders and an arm, and as the camera moved a little bit, it like saw the movement and jumped back out of the way like faster than a living thing can move. And those are the kind of, again, it's a magician one. I'm like, what the hell was that? How did they film it? But all we know is that it was a city worker with a remote camera. No names, no solid locations. Again, it's just, there's not enough information for me to believe it's real. And if it was real, why didn't a big team go down there and try to find it? Why would you film something once and then not go back and see what it was? And I just watched one the other night that I'd never seen before, where this woman was in a cemetery, and there were like crypt-like stones, but they weren't crypts; they were just big stones. And hovering over this was a very, you could tell it was the outline of a person, but it was just black. It looked like black velvet on cardboard. And she filmed it and was like, and then she like turned away and she went back and filmed it again. And it's still there exactly like it was before. It hadn't moved, it hadn't changed shape. And then she's like, I'm getting out of here. I'm like, okay, I'm getting out of here. And that's not the reaction you would probably have if you didn't expect it. If you expect it, you're going to have that reaction. But it just, to me, is like, if I saw that and I was calm enough to say, okay, I'm leaving, I would probably go investigate what it was. The other thing was, I was watching this one where this guy was filming something that was rising up behind something, but his camera kept going down to the ground. Like, if you're filming something, why aren't you filming it? Why are you panning away? Why did you go this way? Why are you not focused on that, trying to zoom in or get closer, especially if you're being calm about it? And a lot of these people, that's what they seem like. They seem like they're calm about it. And if you're that calm, get more information. Or like, there's just so many videos where whatever it is being filmed, the camera doesn't quite stay on that, on that thing. It just doesn't make sense. There's a famous one where there's a guy he had a door with a window in it, and it's a frosted window to his pantry. So he'd open the door and say, look, the pantry's empty. He'd close the door, and like a girl would come up, and you could see it. If she was away, you couldn't see her, but when she comes up to the window, you can see her. And he's like, there it is, and he'd open the door, but it was like, you can tell it was fake, because he'd like fiddle with the door handle, and the girl would back away, and then he'd open the door and she'd be gone. And I'm like, well, there's probably 10 different ways you could fake that. He doesn't film all the way to the ground. He doesn't look around the corner. He doesn't do anything that makes me believe that he was really seeing this, and that's another thing. If you think you see something, I know the tendency is to back away and save yourself, which I would probably do. But if you're calm and I don't know, why don't you film it? Like when they show the chair slide across the room, why don't you film the whole chair? Why are you filming just the top of the chair sliding across the room? I want to see the feet. I want to see the whole chair, and they're perfectly capable of doing that, but they don't. And I just have yet to see a video that has convinced me of anything. Again, I've seen videos that have freaked me out and have given me weird feelings, but in the end, I'm like, I'll turn it off and I'll go back to work. Now, let me give you a point. I'm watching these at work. I work alone at night in an office building, and I'm the only one in the office building. And, there are times I'm watching the scariest videos you can imagine. I turn them off, and then I have to walk upstairs. I'm looking out the window, and we're kind of outside of town, so there's the parking lot, and then there's trees and scrub and farmland. Any number of things could jump out and scare me, but it doesn't. Once I turn the video off and I walk away, I'm like, it doesn't affect me at all. None of these videos have. The cave video, the little witch in the desert, the skinwalkers, those touched me on some level. And the face in the window, whenever